Hey there, how there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to yet another Cutter Top 10 video. Today, we're going to be looking at the top 10 best NFL trades of all time. Of course, rocking the Patriots number 12 for Tom Brady. And of course, you see the 12 on the shoulder numbers because NFL usually does that. And some teams have done it with the shoulder numbers like the Panthers. But yeah, nobody does the shoulder numbers better than the NFL. So I I did the top 10. I'm doing the top 10 best and worst NFL trades. And 5 of them actually are in both the best and the worst. So basically when I do it from the best, like a best and the worst, I actually did more research on it from the hockey one, is that when I do the best and the worst were from one player, then I do the best from the perspective of the team that got the player, and the worst would be from the perspective of the team that gave up the player and what their return is. So we're doing the best first. And by the way, the first the top four are from both the are on the best and the worst, and there's one that has a double later on. So here we go. Number 10 is Jerry Rice to the Oakland Raiders in 2001. This was a massive trade. And yes, it's only on the best trades. So San Francisco had Jerry Rice forever. 1985, the Pats traded away their third round pick to the Niners, who swooped in and got Jerry Rice. So Rice was basically there from Mississippi Valley State, got many records, including most touchdowns by a player, receiving yards, touchdowns, you name it. Almost every wide receiver mark is Jerry Rice's to share with nobody. Strangely enough, the Niners decided after years of greatness and the fact that Jerry Rice had a couple of years of injury problems, especially in 1998 when he was actually injured in the first and last games of the year. So, so of course Jerry Rice would be traded to Oakland. So he didn't go far. He went through California and all that. But it actually rejuvenated Rice as the Raiders offense with Rich Gannon found a great wide receiver, and Rice got to the Super Bowl in 2003, although they lost to the Bucks. But, his longevity is one of the greatest receivers ever, although Seattle and Denver did not help him out. But yeah, Jerry Rice to Oakland was big. And I mean, I was shocked that the Niners were willing to give up on him. Oops. Number 9 is Russell Wilson from the to the Broncos 2022. So, of course, we're going to do it from the perspective of the Broncos because Russell Wilson's on the worst. But Russell Wilson to the Broncos was big. Denver, after Peyton Manning's retirement in 2016, basically couldn't find a good quarterback. Brock Osweiler went to Houston. They were trying this whole Memphis quarterback guy who I can't remember off the top of my head. It'll come to me somehow. But yeah, they tried every little bit of quarterbacking to quarterback the Broncos after Peyton Manning left. Never mind after John Elway leaving. But yeah. So anyway, it was a massive trade, and the Broncos getting Russell Wilson. Unfortunately, though, it actually ended up being in a bad spot. Yeah, this trade was in 2022, but yeah, Denver. He tried with Denver, he failed with Denver, and then he's now on the Steelers, if memory serves me right. Or I think he went to the Jets. Can't remember. I think he went back to the Steelers. The Steelers and Jets. So basically, Russell Wilson's career is now flogged and all that. So in a sense, Seattle's kind of laughing. Number 8 is Eric Dickerson to the Indianapolis Colts, 1987. So this is, just the only list this one will be on. So yeah, so Eric Dickerson was this great running back from SMU, of course, that school getting shelled with NCAA sanctions because of the boosters, basically playing players to play for SMU. That whole Southwestern Conference minus Arkansas, Rice, and I think Texas Tech also. Those guys did not have any, or was it Baylor? They didn't have any scandals, but nevertheless, Ferguson was a good running back. 2,100 yards with the Rams in 1984, still the record to this day, even though that we have a 17-game schedule. Regardless of that, Dickerson was good, but Dickerson had a contract problem, so he held out in 1987, and the Rams were like, "Screw you, we're going to trade you." So they decided to trade Dickerson to the Indianapolis Colts. It, it was a 3-team deal as the Bills got involved, and one of the biggest moves, the Colts got rid of Cornelius Bennett to Buffalo. So Buffalo took Cornelius Bennett. That was their big movement and all that. I think they took Greg Bell. The Rams traded him to the Bills. I think the Bills got Greg Bell from the Rams. But yeah, the Colts got Eric Dickerson. They were thinking they were one running back away from with a title, but the Colts didn't really have a good quarterback. Dickerson would last for I think 6 years until he went to the Falcons. But yeah, it was a good deal for the Colts at the time. But the Colts, went downhill, and Dickerson ended up playing for the Falcons. I think that was the end of his career. I don't remember any of the teams he played for. Okay, number 7 is Deion Sanders to the San Francisco 49ers, 1994. So anyway, Deion Sanders was this great guy from Florida State who Atlanta picked up, and he was good for the Falcons. However, he was a free agent, but the Falcons signed him back and traded him to the Niners. So I traded him to the Niners, which was shocking because why would the Falcons trade with the division rival Niners? Of course, yeah, Atlanta and San Francisco were division rivals, even though that they should not have been because Atlanta's from the East and San Francisco for the West, and they were in the Western Division. Regardless of that, Deion Sanders had a 1-year stint with the Niners, got them the Super Bowl against the Chargers in '95, and then left for Dallas, where he helped Dallas win another title. And Deion was good for Dallas after San Francisco, 1-year pony with San Francisco, and then with the Falcons. People debate whether he was a good Falcon or a good Cowboy, like which one, like a one-team guy. Deion would go to Washington and Baltimore and kind of struggle. Number 6 is Randy Moss to the New England Patriots. I know it's biased in a sense, but I mean, like the Pats and all that, it was big. Randy Moss was this great wide receiver who went to the Vikings in the '98 draft. Dallas had a chance to draft him, but they didn't like his character at Marshall, so they drafted some unknown guy. Regardless of that, Randy Moss would torch the Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day in 1998, on the way for the Vikings to go 15-1 and should have went to the Super Bowl, but Atlanta fucked them over. Nevertheless, Moss was great for him. And of course, that pretend mooning that basically Joe Buck had a heart attack over, if you will. But yeah, Moss would then be sent to the Raiders as a free agent deal, and Moss was supposed to help the Raiders out after Jerry Rice's retirement. Sadly, though, Moss had troubles with Oakland, and the Patriots decided to pick up this great wide receiver for a 4th-round pick. That's right, just a teensy-weensy 4th-round pick. It worked out. The Raiders' 4th-round pick, I don't think did well, but the Patriots, it revitalized them. Like Randy Moss put up 23 touchdown catches to break Jerry Rice's record for most touchdowns in a single season by a receiver. And of course, Tom Brady was setting that record too for touchdown passes. So anyway, it helped New England out, setting the offensive records, going 16-0 in the regular season, and should have won the Super Bowl, but those pesky Giants. Moss would go on to play for Tennessee and I think San Francisco, become kind of a malcontent, except for the Niners. He ended his career with the Niners with a Super Bowl loss in 2013, but still. Number 5 is the John Elway trade to Denver, 1983. John Elway was this great quarterback for the University of Stanford, and he was big. The last college game he played for was the famous game called The Play, when Stanford thought they had beaten Cal and got themselves into the Hall of Fame Bowl. But unfortunately for them, Cal did the whole home run throwback thing with Kevin Moen, plowing over Gary Tyrell, the trumpet player, or trombone player. Anyway, Elway would be drafted first overall by the Baltimore Colts, who really needed a quarterback. Art Schlichter was nothing but trouble. He had gambling problems, and the Colts went 0-8-1 in that shortened 1982 season. So yeah, the Colts needed some help because Schlichter was going nowhere. But John Elway said no to Baltimore, shocking everyone involved. Your first overall pick and you can't take care of him? Why? Well, there's a myriad of reasons. One was Elway did not like the Baltimore system. Number 2 is that John Elway thought he could do better playing minor league baseball for the Yankees than play for Baltimore. Well, of course, number 3 is his father, Jack Elway, who was his coach at Stanford, did not like the system. But mostly, but my theory is that Baltimore was the head coach was the problem, and his name Frank Kush. If you're a college football fan like yours truly, you know who the hell Frank Kush is. Arizona State's quarterback, I mean, best head coach ever, and his name's on the stadium before they moved. I think they moved. I can't remember. But nevertheless, Frank Kush was known for his practices with, like, they called the bull ring, and he was basically kicked out of Arizona State, stripped of all his stuff until 1996. But yeah, Frank Kush was a terrible head coach, and John Elway knew that because he played for Stanford and Kush played for coach Arizona State, and they are Pac-10 rivals. So Elway decided to hold out, and then Denver picked him up for was it not Chris Hinton at guard and quarterback Mark Herman and a few other picks. It worked out for Denver. I mean, Elway was there. Denver got to many Super Bowls. Yes, Elway lost 3 straight Super Bowls in 87, 88, and 90 before winning the ones in 97 and 98. No, sorry, 98 and 99. Beg pardon. Well, yeah. Elway was traded to Denver. It helped Denver out with a quarterback thing. And of course, he did it. Unfortunately for Baltimore, the Colts ruled that day. They were terrible in 1983, one of the worst teams ever. And then they would trade, and then they would leave for Indianapolis under the cover of night because of the whole stadium issue with Memorial Stadium. You gotta watch 5 Point Fid's video of that. It's kind of cool. Number 4 is Marshall Faulk to the Rams, 1999. So this is from the perspective of the Rams. So Marshall Faulk was a good running back. Indianapolis took him from San Diego State, who was making headwaves in the NCAA for the Aztecs. So the Colts decided to take him. It was a massive move and all that, and it worked until they traded him to the Rams in 1999. It wasn't like a bad idea. I mean, the Colts traded him to the Rams because they actually had their eye on another running back out of college from Miami named Edgerrin James. So they thought James and Falk could not coexist, so they decided to trade Falk to the St. Louis Rams. They didn't really have a running back. Lawrence Phillips was a bust. Well, his behavior fucked him over. Nevertheless, Falk helped the greatest show on turf. They had their quarterback in Kurt Warner, even though that many people had they were skeptical because Trent Green went down in that preseason injury. But Dick Vermeil says we will rally around Kurt Warner. And it worked. And of course, the wide receiver marks of Torrey Holt, Akeem, and even Ricky Proehl. So it worked. Falk was the running back of the greatest show on turf. They did the West Coast offense in which he could run for yardage and even catch for yardage. That worked out for the Rams and all that. And I think he retired at Rams, did he not? I think so. But yeah, it helped the St. Louis Rams win the Super Bowl the next season. So it hurt the Colts, but it didn't really hurt them. Number 3 is Stevie Young to the San Francisco Niners, 1987. People forget about this, and I don't blame you one freaking bit that you forget that Steve Young, even though he's a Niners legend, did not play all his career for the Niners. He was a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Yes, Steve Young, great quarterback for BYU in the 80s, and then went to the USFL, and then applied his trade, went to Tampa, and of course Tampa with that team with Hugh Culverhouse, the penny pincher that he is, and the bitch. Anyhow, Tampa decided to trade Steve Young to the Niners. It was a kind of a weird move because, I mean, the Niners had Joe Montana, and the Niners kind of went for Young. I think in a sense because Montana had a few injuries, and the Niners wanted to keep Montana on his toes. Basically, that most companies would put a guy to try to take over from the incumbent to basically light a fire under him. Montana and Young would have one of the biggest quarterback controversies in NFL history, but it worked. Young picked up 2 MVP awards and a Super Bowl. He was the backup to Montana for the titles in 89 and 90. But basically, he would be always under Montana's shadow, even after Montana left for Kansas City. But the joke was on Montana, as a few years after the trade, Steve Young led the Niners to the title in 1995 and said, "Someone get that monkey off my shoulders, the monkey off my back." And I think, was it I think it was Harris Barden who did that to him in the thing. I would say Guy McIntyre, but I know it's Harris Barden. So yeah, Steve Young. It worked out for the Niners, and he had retired as a Niner after injuries and all that, bringing Jeff Garcia from the CFL. Don't do that. Number 2 is Brett Favre. I purposely did it to the Packers in 1992. He came from Southern Miss. He actually had a Hail Mary to beat Louisville in 1989. People forget about that. And then, the Falcons thought they had a good quarterback in the second round, so they took him in the second round. Unfortunately, though, Jerry Glanville did not really like him and decided to get rid of Favre to the Packers. I mean, Favre completed one pass his entire rookie season, and that was to himself. So they basically gave up on him, and strange as it sounds, it worked out for the Packers. I mean, yeah, they gave up a first-round pick for Favre, and it was like, what the hell? He's unproven. A first-round pick? Green Bay had a quarterback who was good, Don Magic Man Majkowski. But I think they wanted Favre to light a fire under Majkowski. Unfortunately, he injured himself early. I think it was week 2, was it? He injured himself. Favre came in, or was it week 3? I think it was week 3 when Favre came in for Majkowski playing against Cincy and led them to the last second win. It worked. It transferred the franchise. It gave the Packers, Green Bay, known as Title Town, a title after 29 years of trying in 1997. He won the Super Bowl, and yeah, he was battling a Vicodin. Was it? Yeah, I think it was a Vicodin, like a pain reliever addiction. But it worked. He got rid of his addiction. He helped the Packers win the Super Bowl. Could have won back to back, but failed. And he was legend number 4 until he just had to go to the Jets and the Vikings. Especially with the Vikings, branding him a Benedict Arnold. The Jets, it wasn't so bad. I mean, if Favre did not play through that injury in 2008, I think the Jets would have won the division. The Pats would have snuck in as a wild card. Just saying. And number 1 is the Herschel Walker trade to the Vikings, 1989. This trade actually worked out for the wrong team, for the Dallas Cowboys. So yeah, sending Herschel Walker to the Vikings was big for Dallas because of the fact that Herschel was basically the only good guy for the Cowboys in the mid-'80s, and Minnesota needed a running back to have the final piece of the puzzle. They were close a couple times, including 1988 in the conference finals, first and goal and failing at the 7-yard line. Nevertheless, Vikings said they had it. They wanted Kevin Mack, but he was getting a drug suspension, so thus they pivoted to Herschel Walker. And this trade worked out great for Dallas. Dallas got 5 players and 5 draft picks from the Vikings. So many of the players Dallas picked up from Minnesota actually were traded for draft picks. Basically, they were what do you call it? They were basically place setters. So it worked out. A lot of draft picks went to Dallas, and Larry Brown was drafted with one of those picks. Leon Lett, I think it was, and Emmitt Smith. So yeah, so Dallas, with one of the picks that Minnesota gave them, leveraged it to get a first-round pick to get Emmitt Smith from Florida, and it worked. 3 Super Bowls in the 1990s. Dallas was the 90s dynasty. Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones were basically geniuses, and all the world will get to know. How about them Cowboys? Annoying, don't you think? Anyhow, I'm Jeff Diamond at Duke.